In this video, I'm going to show you how to morph between shapes in Cavalry and create an animation like this. We're going to begin by adding our beginning shape, then our end shape, and lastly, morph between the two shapes. Let's get started. To start, let's add the shapes we want to morph between. I'm going to have three: a polygon shape, an ellipse, and finally a super ellipse. Down in the layers panel, we can disable the visibility of the last two shapes by pressing the little eye on the left. We'll come back to them later. Then we can select our first shape, and under deformers, we'll add the morph deformer. Then, to keep everything organized, it's a good idea to drag the corresponding morph deformer into the shape. So select the morph deformer, then we want to drag the blue dot from the end shape all the way over to the morph target. This will act as a reference to what the beginning shape should morph into. The strength value is what determines the morphing. Sampling offset is a value you can change to alter the look of the animation. If you set the strength to 50%, you can adjust the value to see the effect. I'm going to set it at 0 since that's what I think looks best in this example. Now to animate this, set a keyframe at 0% at frame 0. Then move the playhead to frame 60 and change the strength to 100%. Now, before testing this animation, we can, inside the composition settings, change the frame rate to 60 to make it more smooth. So, if we play this first part of the final animation, we'll see it doesn't look smooth. The reason for this is that the key interpolation is set to linear. To fix this, select your keyframes, go to the graph editor, and again make sure that all keyframes are highlighted. Then right click on the line, go to magic easing, then select slow in, slow out. Now we're done with animating the first part of the full animation, so we can collapse this. Next we can go to the end frame of the first transition, and here we can drag the visibility of the ellipse shape to that point. Up till this point we have only used the ellipse shape as a reference for what it should morph into, but after the transition, we want to physically change to a new object. With that in mind, we can also shorten the visibility of the first polygon shape, as this is only being used for the first morph. We can turn on the viewport visibility of the ellipse shape, since that's our next object to work on. Now, as you can see, we have this point where we shift from the old object into the new object. So now that we have made the shift over to the next layer, we can animate that as well. So select the ellipse shape, and then we're going to repeat the process of the first one. But remember to stay till then, because I will show you how to make this animation loop. So again, drag in the end shape into the morph target and animate it like before, but we're going to shift it by 60 frames to the right. Finally, for this one, we can go ahead and apply the magic easing. If you want to know more about smooth animations using key interpolation, check out my video about that after this one. Before looping this animation back to the first shape, we can try to experiment with the sampling offset. Again, go to a frame in the middle of the transition to see the effect. I would encourage you to play around with these values to not only get an interesting result, but also learn what each value can do. For this example, I'm just going to keep it at 0. So like with the previous shape, we can drag the super ellipse visibility to only begin at frame 120. This is where our transition back to the first shape will begin. And like the other shapes, we can now enable its visibility in the viewport. Now to morph back to the beginning shape again, the process is somewhat the same, but with a few alternations. Plus one problem we have to fix. The problem is that if we try to drag the original polygon shape as the morph target, it lights up as red, meaning they won't connect. The reason for this is that the original polygon shape already is connected to another morph deformer. However, the fix is actually really easy. All we have to do is select the first shape and then duplicate it. I'm going to drag it up to the top and release it when a white line appears. Now we want to remove the morph deformer on the duplicate so that we can select the morph deformer on the super ellipse and then drag the duplicated polygon shape into the target. Since this duplicate only acts as a reference for the morph transition, we can safely disable the visibility of that one. Finally, we can set a keyframe at 0% at frame 120 and then a keyframe at 180 with a strength of 100%. If you look in the timeline editor, the polygon duplicate looks to be placed weirdly, but remember, this only acts as a reference and we can therefore ignore it. Make sure to drag the end frame back to 180 so it'll loop properly. And very importantly, remember to change the easing by selecting both keyframes again, right click, and then under magic easing, set it to slow in, slow out. Now we can try to play the animation and see if any further adjustments could be made. For me, the last transition back to the original shape is a little too wild. So following the same procedure again, we can go to a frame in between and alter the sampling offset to something that works better. But feel free to create your own unique style of animation. Thanks for watching.